Welcome to another episode of the Para Cave podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Para Cave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Para Cave podcast. Troy Warner here, and this is part 2 of my interview with Mr. Glenn Gorick. I hope you really enjoyed part 1 of this episode with Glenn. It was certainly very interesting indeed, and what a champion bloke Glenn is. The stuff that he does, especially for the Mark Hughes Foundation, definitely doing those walks, that is for sure. But look, that is enough for me talking. I'm just going to let you guys get straight into part 2 of the episode with Mr. Glenn Gorick. Enjoy.
Wanted to walk down hills, couldn't walk down hills. His knee had blown out. He was walking backwards down hills, and to the entertainment for all of us, and got a few video grabs of it, and we still play them every now and then at his cafe there at Cronulla in AJ's cafe. And people have a bit of a laugh. Can't believe it. That's a great shame hill. It's just so broken.
Who has been the most surprising? Who surprised you the most on these walks? Like you thought, okay, yeah, obviously they've played professional sport or whatever, but this is a different beast. This one. So who surprised you the most on these walks?
Mate, every single person that's on it surprises me, because they're just wonderful people, right? Everybody I've met on those walks, they're just high-quality human beings, mate. You can't find them anywhere else. I love them like a family. We all help each other outside now. A lot of us, we all come from different sporting backgrounds, but we all are on the same page about, charity work and philanthropy and helping others. And, so there's a lot of us keep in touch after them and have become we're all going to be lifelong friends, a lot of us. There's so many good people. The standouts of the people who surprised me, Ellie Pastamo, she's had her own fight with brain cancer, has lost a lot of her eyesight through the operations, but fights on. She's walked just about every one of those. Incredible how she does that. And she is the most upbeat, beautiful angel you'll ever meet. We had Cassandra, one of the girls, where she was a warrior. We've lost her now. She surprised me because she was in such a bad way with her ailments and her memory and the injuries that were caused by the operation. But she would fight on every day in those walks. Yeah. And Cassandra Bennett, remember the name, Google it. She was pretty much an Olympic level rower and I think a doctor. And anyway, she impacted all of us. She surprised me how good she was. The footballers with no knees, Billy Peden, that guy's a machine. No wonder they won the grand final with him playing. He's unstoppable. Aaron Gorrell, Aaron has no left knee. It's and their shoes wear through their feet, right? Yeah. They wear through to the bone in some places on their ankles and whatever, and they put it all aside and they keep walking. And so it surprises that they can walk 150K. It mightn't sound much, like 150K or whatever. We do 300K. But the fact is, when you walk all day and that's all you do, you get sore and you get worn out. And you wake up in the morning, you're all swollen up and you just don't want to get out of bed. And there's hardly any time. It's a full day. It's 12 to 14 hours of walking and then straight to bed after dinner and sleep and up early to get back on the bus to the start point.
That's right. It'll all kick off again, I guess, in about June or July again next year. Rugby league certainly gets behind it, and it's great stuff that they're doing. One of the criteria that you mentioned there to get involved was media identity, and you've got your Erin hat on there.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah,
there it is.
You're on the Sky News Erin Molan show. Tell us a little bit about that one and what things you discuss and how fun it is.
Yeah, mate, Erin Molan is one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. So if anyone wants to know about Erin, rather than say what they think, go and meet her. And you'll find out how hard she works, how generous she is with her time, and how much she does for charity, right? And she's also a domestic violence survivor from a very serious domestic violence assault a decade or so back. We won't go any further into it, but it was quite violent. She's come out with it in the Telegraph. I've known Erin a very long time. We met down at Sharks, of all places. She was helping us, helping us with two boys who were suffering what's called Batten syndrome, where they go blind and slow. They start normal lives, and then slowly, as they get older into their teens, they become basically wheelchair bound and can't do anything, and they lose their eyesight and so on. It's a horrible thing. And Erin helped us with the Yellow Socks campaign, and we raised I think that between the Sharks, then they raised that was $250,000. I remember Ray Hadley saying, "No, you can't raise $250,000 in one night, mate. It just doesn't happen." Wow. Having a laugh, and I said, "Yeah, but you know why, Ray? Because we're blokes. These were the women that ran this board, and the women were in the committee, and they raised that money." And he laughed. But Erin helped us with a Fox News sports coverage then, or 9, it might have been 9. It was Channel 9. My apologies. It was Channel 9, and I met her and ended up somehow with a phone number. She said, "If you ever need anything, here's my phone number." And, we kept in touch and crossed paths here and there through the continuous call team, because one of my besties in 2GB is obviously Mark Levy, that connection. And and another high-quality human being is that bloke. He works so hard too. He's like Erin. They might see him on TV or radio for an hour or two or whatever it might be, but they're doing 50, 60, 70-hour weeks. And they've got families, all these people as well, mind you. Erin's raising a 6-year-old daughter at the same time as all this stuff's going on. So, look, last year she mentioned, "I want you on my show." She'd just gone over to Sky a few years ago. And, by the way, number 1 rated show at the moment in Australia.
Well done,
number
Erin.
Number one, Erin. And she always says it's everybody else, but we know it's her. She's so popular, mate. When I go out and do my Erin at 5 grabs for social media, which we started doing in February, I noticed how popular she is, more so because I'm part of that show now. And for every 1,000 people that I meet, 999 of them have a complimentary remark about her. Yeah. I've never met anyone that's impacted people like this, right? Yeah. Right across the spectrum of sport, news, radio, everywhere. There's so many people, and they all say the one thing: "I love Erin." They all say that. Young men, old men, women, old women, young women, kids. People in shops, businesses, everywhere I go. I at the moment have, I think I have about 1,000 or so who's watching Erin at 5 grabs on my phone. Right? I've never had anyone say no, and they all laugh and they love her. So, it's incredible. So what you read about most of your media personalities by the trolls or the naysayers or the armchair critics who, obviously, and this is my take on it, and I've said this to Erin, most people that are doing really well in media represent what everybody else wants to be. They can't be, so then they attack them through jealousy, right? And that's happened. Erin's been subject of a lot of jealous attacks over the years and untruths. They blamed her for basically saying that she ruined the footy show. Well, hello, note to everybody out there, the footy show ran out of money and it had run its course, just like Hey It's Saturday and all the big shows do. They finally come to an end, and you can't sustain it without revenue. So they cost cut and they try and change and tweak it and whatever, and they did. And sadly it didn't work, and the footy show came to an end. It was a great show, but it was nothing to do with Erin Molan. Nothing to do with her whatsoever. In fact, the ratings went up. Her Today FM show that's just recently finished, when she started there, it was 200,000 audience. When she finished there, 400,000 audience. That's the influence Erin Molan has on people. Sky News, she came there. She's the bottom show once a week. It's now number 1. And it's because it's Erin Molan, and it's how much she gives. Erin helped a young child named Maddie Sue. It was called Magic Maddie. They made a movie about it. It was on at the State Theatre, and a whole lot of places held shows and celebrations for young Maddie. This little child, 6-year-old girl, ended up with brain cancer. Charlie Teo did the first operations on her, but as you know, Charlie can't do that anymore. Well, Maddie got to 9 years old recently this year and sadly passed away. Maddie closed the show on Sky. She come on Erin and closed the show off, and just brilliant. And that's the stuff Erin does, right? So Erin has supported that family, and with financially, I know she's done that. This is the thing. So we have a lot of fun on that show. My role on it is a panelist. We do what's called the power panel, and
power panel.
Yeah, okay. Sometimes I'm lucky. I'll get on front desk. Erin has spent a lot of time this year covering off on domestic violence, and she's become the face for Australia Says No and an ambassador across a wide range of it. And look, none of us knew that she was a DV survivor. Nobody knew that. She kept that very secretive. Only one was Angela Mollard, and Erin came out with the story. And I was picking up things from knowing her personally. There was something amiss with that side of her. Just that you could see some trauma there and so on. And my experience in the policing with domestic violence victims, you get to know their behaviours, right? And I picked up a little bit with Erin, and anyway, we got talking about it, and I know a lot more about it now. I'm not going to share it here, but she came out with it, and all this time she's doing all this hard work for DV victims and sending messages to our Prime Minister and our Premier and our opposition leader to do something about it. As you know, you're probably aware, Troy, we've done a lot. I'm on Channel 9 as well, and we've done a lot with domestic violence where in 2014 they changed the bail laws, and what happened was there was an increase in the murders of particularly female DV people, so victims, and it went from probably 20 a year, it jumped to 50, 60 a year. It's now, since 2014 to present, we've lost over 500 women, and some men, but predominantly women, at the hands of their intimate partner. So it was time that one's not acceptable, but 500 is just a national disgrace. And these are the ones that we do know about. And also then you've got all of the ones that are only injured and suffer horrific injuries at the hands of their perpetrator. So Erin went on a bit of a campaign to try and get some change, and a huge amount of work she did behind the scenes on it. Phenomenal, just the phone calls and the push and the pressure to change legislation, to the point that we had the opposition leader, Mark Speakman, change legislation in Parliament and able to Chris Minns to do it, and that was to get those bracelets fitted to serious DV offenders that needed to be monitored. The women have no idea where the perpetrator is once he's released from court, right? That's the problem. The women, or the victims, I'll rephrase that, the victim doesn't know where the accused is. They don't know where they are once they're out. And so they're living in fear. That's right. And no one should be living in fear of not knowing when this guy or girl is going to turn up and attack them. Yeah, no. You should know where every movement is, so you can go about your business every day, do your school kids and live in your house and all that. But these victims live in total fear of not knowing, and there's no way of monitoring them except through a piece of paper that says they won't go near them, right? So we advocated for change, and Erin was the main person behind that, and she pushed it, and obviously the changes came, and Carl and Sarah Arbo on Channel 9 also pushed big time. Sarah was pushing it along with me when we were doing those recent DV jobs on the Today Show. So, it's huge. So, anyway, that's the Erin Molan story. It's very
and she's a massive Canberra Raiders fan as well.
She's a Canberra Raiders girl.
How does that go with yourself when Canberra play Cronulla?
We had it. We've had a few games, and we gave Canberra a little flick on the nose. That one's for you, Erin Molan. Every now and then, but yeah, look, Erin's she grew up down there, and she followed them, and she's, even though she has those beautiful blue eyes, she has one green and white eye, mate. I'm telling you, and I'm sure she sleeps in pajamas with Canberra milk written all over them, and all that sort of stuff. But look, yeah, she's had a bit of a time out of the footy because of Sky and the radio show. But this year we had the Sky News bonding corporate box at Manly v Sharks at Manly at Brookvale, and we went over there, and we all had a great time. That's where these hats actually came. We made them up for the day, and now everybody wants a Erin hat. So you've got to place your orders with fine print in Tarrant Point if anyone wants one of those hats. But look, yeah, we had a great day over there, and the Raiders weren't in the semi, so we sort of got Erin halfway over to the Sharks. Okay. So just a little bit anyway. Yeah. Nah, you're going to kill me for saying that. I've lost my job, I reckon, for saying that.
I don't think so. But look, you're totally right with everything that you said. I mean, I do remember watching the footy show as a kid, and I slowly ended up not watching it because it was. I was there for footy talk, and it turned out to be more entertainment talk and clips and the like. Erin Molan, she was probably a breakthrough in female presenters for rugby league, because I think she was the first, by memory. And then Yvonne O'Keefe came, and then Danica Mason's come, and others on Fox as well have come through. But I think Erin was the first.
Erin was pretty much the first, There's been the odd one pop in and out of, from the rugby union and so on. But yeah, Erin pretty much was the trailblazer. And the thing that Erin did, she came from following football in Canberra, going to the games. She researched it like no other. Her knowledge was second to none. And she built up this incredible network with the coaches, right? She knows every coach and everywhere. So she had this great knowledge to come in. And when she talked, she knew what she was talking about. Some people won't agree with that. But I'm telling you now, anyone that was probably knocking her probably didn't know as much as she did. So a bit of hypocrisy, right? And that struggle for self-relevance when you try and say things that you really shouldn't. And Erin had it all covered, and she set the standard. And along came Alana Ferguson, and along came Emma Lawrence, who's still doing it. Yvonne Sampson. I'm just reeling them off the top of my head. And obviously, now we have Danica.
Coming through thick and thin now.
They're everywhere. So Erin, they owe that breakthrough to Erin, and it had nothing. One thing that was really good about it, it really had nothing to do with gender-based equality. It was about the best person for the job, right? And it was great to see the girls doing the job better than the men. That's how you make the difference, right? And I look, many of those female presenters are way better than the men. They're more knowledgeable, and all respect to the men presenters, they're very good at what they do. But the girls just had that flair to it, and they can just engage. I don't know, they just engage everyone so much better. I don't know whether it's the female gene with being the mum, the motherhood thing with the kids, whatever. They just generally engage everyone, and they just bring another change that it was long overdue, and Erin was a trailblazer in that, and hence why she's so popular.
Well, before we get into the personality questions that I ask everybody, you mentioned before clubs need revenue and revenue from sponsors. Now, Shark Park's had that many name changes from sponsors over the years. What is happening with Shark Park, and do you get offended when people say that it's not a big enough ground for fans and things like that, and they shouldn't play games there and finals there? It's not up to NRL quality.
Right, a good point. Look, man, and take it on board. As a former administrator, you always have an ear, right? These are for listening, and you have to listen to your fan base. One of the things as an administrator I used to do was walk the whole lap of the Oval at half time, right? And walk through the crowd and talk to everyone. You're wearing a suit with sharks all over it. They know who you are. You get the odd one, but in general, everyone's pretty happy. And you ask them, how's it going? What can we do better? And so on. And you find out the toilet blocks weren't no good anymore, weren't sustaining the number of people or whatever, right? So the feedback from the fans is quite useful as long as it's constructive, not abusive. Abusing doesn't change anything. It's like the protests that are going on at the moment. What's your outcome? If you're going to say something, make sure it's going to have a good outcome or be worthwhile outcome. At the moment, people carry on and whinge and complain. And some people might say something from an administrator's point of view, we need to fix the toilets, right? Well, how? What's wrong? Telling someone what they need to do isn't how you fix it. It's coming up with a strategy.
Yeah.
Right? Politicians are the worst for it. They'll say, we need to make the hospitals better. We need to make the roads better. We won't tolerate this. Well, that's not doing anything. And you people have got to, everyone listening to your shows has to start listening to actually what people say. So if someone says, Parramatta needs to do better, we all know that. We know that. What someone should be saying, how can I help to make Parramatta better? All right, or I've got an idea. I'm going to do this marketing strategy on Instagram for Parramatta and try and get more fans. That's what you want people to say, right? When they come on your committee or your board. And I've been on plenty of committees and plenty of boards where I've had people come in and say, we need to fix this. Well, how, mate? How about you do it? Right? You can't. We're not dumb. We know what needs to be fixed, and it goes right to the prime ministers of the last 10 or so parliaments. They all tell you what you need, but they don't actually come up with an idea, right? And that's just flowing on everywhere, and it becomes, like huff and puff. You've got to have an outcome. So Sharks has done extremely well from a club that was virtually out of funds, out of revenue. They had to sell off the Solander playing fields, which were really, they were all reclaimed. So with the history, I'll try and keep it as brief as possible, but Sharks' history was in 1967, they were based at Caringbah, the clubhouse, and they had an oval up at Sutherland, and they needed a better home ground and facility to expand. So the council gave them the old tip site.
Okay.
Right, and that is an old tip site there. So they gave it to them, they gifted it to them, and they took ownership of it, and they cleaned it all up. And through my dad's working parties and mates and Kenny Rosethorns and the John Lennons and all those Jack Lennons and all those guys that came down there, worked, volunteered their time, filled it all in, built it all up, and then the club got built and it's got a government grant and so on, right? And it has all this land. So for something that gets used 12 times a year,
Yeah.
got all this land. So
Right.
when it gets bigger, it costs more to run it. And if you don't keep the people coming, well, you start losing money. You know, you're not a charity there for anyone. What happened was they sold off the land, and probably pre the big real estate boom, because now if they'd sold it off, you know, we'd probably be buying every club in the NRL. But there was enough to survive and pay out all the old debts. And I was on that first part on the board in 2013 when that was going on, and it was interesting times. And they sold it all off, and we basically then went into that problem with ASADA. So no one wanted to sponsor us, and this is another valuable lesson for your young listeners that are aspiring to be a player or whatever. Your indiscretions off the field cost the clubs millions of dollars, and that's the money that goes in your pocket on your playing contract. So you want to think that you can get away with going out and being a party boy or girl and doing the wrong thing as a professional sportsman, and you get caught, it will cost your club. And we lost with ASADA, we lost pretty much every sponsor.
Yeah.
We had some other indiscretions, which we won't go into here, only because obviously legalities, but you'll remember them. Certain incidents off field. We lost one contract that was worth $3 million. One other contract, 1.8 million. So that was when Damien and the others bailed the club out, you know, because that was all through player indiscretion, nothing else.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you have administrative discretions, that also hurts, but they're not as high profile as players. So players have to have a responsibility to ensure that they protect the integrity of the brand to bring that revenue in. Because we're not getting paid as directors to chase that revenue. And we go to all this trouble ringing mates, ringing wealthy mates. It's mostly wealthy friends and business people locally that you're just on the phone to, please, we need your help. Can we get $1 million? You know, and they throw $1 million and you're not going to get anything back for it, except their name's going to be on a football team for a year. You know, it's pretty cool to show all your friends that you've got the name, but it's not a massive return. So it's a gifted type of gesture from your local business people. And then to have a player do something stupid off field, and then you lose all that money because they ring you up the next morning. I remember the big one when I got the phone call, which was one we'd worked on so hard to get. And that was, mate, we're out of here. We've breached contract here. Our brand's been damaged and we're pulling the pins. You know, and it's important. And I mean, the coaching groups all talk about this to the players, and they have people come in and talk to them professionally about, you know, off-field conduct and all of that sort of stuff. But it still just seems to continue. It has got a lot better, though, you've got to say. This year there's been hardly anything. There's been a couple of note, but obviously the recent one with Adokar, but certainly it's way less than it was. You know, other sporting codes have a lot bigger problems, mate. I won't name those codes, but one in particular has got a big problem with its off-field conduct, and it's just that it's not as high profile. But the NRL, it does a hell of a lot of work behind the scenes to educate everybody and try and keep the brand safe. And you know, that's revenue is everything. It's what makes it work. Now, getting back to Sharks, we only hold at the moment 11,000 people. Now, we all remember COVID, the old lockdowns, right?
Yeah.
So during COVID, Sharks were one of the fortunate clubs that was able to hold the game just at the end of it, and under huge restrictions. So no one had seen live game of footy for a year. So they're just sitting watching it on the old TV box, as we call it. And, you know, it's fun, but it's better to go to the game and get in the emotion, right? Carry the moment, wave the flags and sing up Cronulla at the end and all that. And, you know, Para's the same, mate. So passionate, the fans out there at Parramatta. What a great old club. And certainly to see it live. Anyway, we had this COVID issue. So Dino, in his infinite wisdom, was the chairman at the time, put together this strategy to get a game on, that we couldn't have any alcohol. We're allowed one bar, I think, one little tiny outlet to serve a beer. So it sells out at 11,000 people, totally sells out. And you go down there and the queue for the bar, which, mind you, is only probably 20 to 40 people standing in it.
Yeah.
But it was an hour wait.
Yeah.
Everybody else was there to watch footy. And there was kids and people everywhere. And it was the first time I've been to a Sharks game that wasn't littered with alcohol-fueled crowd.
Okay, yeah.
So it was a different atmosphere. It's almost like a rugby. I've been to a lot of the rugby games, and you go to rugby games, they're all happy there, right? They don't know what it is that they put in the water there, but they're very happy.
Bit
and
more
they're
subdued.
all lovers and fighters. Yeah, and the language is a little bit more
Friendlier.
refined. Whereas some of the NRL games I've been to, you've got to cover your kids' ears. And people need to think of that. Just remember there's young kids and other old people around there. You've got to respect that. So this was a different game, and everyone was having a great time watching the football. And I did my halftime walk and looked at everyone, and it was just this wonderful feeling watching 11,000 people, haven't had a beer, and they're all happy except the one row. So Monday morning comes around, and there's the Facebook page, everything, Cronulla Sharks or whatever they call those things, tearing the hell out of the board, tearing the hell out of the place, saying it was terrible, worst experience ever. And then I sat down with Dean. I said, mate, we don't even address any of that. There's 40 people in that queue. No one was down there to have a beer. And you're just getting consumed by trying to respond to all of this. It's the wrong people we're trying to appease here. Yep, we had a problem with alcohol, but it was made very clear that there was going to be very few alcohol outlets. Every other fan and member knew about that. It was just this one bunch that go down there to get on the drink and cause trouble. It seemed that way.
Yeah.
All right. That was from the outside looking in. So all of a sudden we had a different style of crowd, and it's just grown since then, mate. The problem we do have is we don't have our clubhouse next to our field like we used to. And many other clubs across the NRL are in the same boat, right? Remember North, the club is miles away. Yeah. St George is across the road. There's so many other clubs that aren't actually at the ground they play at. The Canterbury's the same. The club's down the road. Yeah. So it's no different for Sharks to have Carrillo, which we bought, as our club for the time being, whilst our clubhouse gets renovated. It's just people were so used to having the club right there. Right. And after the game, you'd all go and have dinner and you'd go through the place. And it was a big, big event centre. Had so much stuff going on in that clubhouse. So we don't have that at the moment. There was an asbestos identified issue with the initial stages of construction around it, and then they had to shut it down. So the AGM this year was held, and Dino updated everybody, and him and Stephen Mace are doing a wonderful job there. I'll throw that in. And what they have found is that they're going to get the club built. The builders agreed to compensate it for the lost revenue out of the club, which will pay for the new club.
Okay.
So it started to be built. Once we get that open and the deck and a few other areas, we'll go to a 15 to 20,000 crowd again. And and that's massive. Any club in the NRL struggles. There's only a couple of clubs that don't, but most of the clubs struggle to get more than 15,000 at a game, right? That's just how it is. Because there's a lot of impacting. You've got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night footy.
Yeah.
People at some point through the year on those occasions have other things to do. So you 15,000 live members at a field is about the rule of thumb. And you need that to cover your costs. Most of the games are run to cover the cost of putting it on because the TV rights is where all the money is.
That's right.
So if you can just break even on running your game and keep your staff employed, right, it's good. So you need about 10,000 people to go to the games to break even.
Well, if we can get to 15 to 20, that would be much better, I think, for everybody. And as you mentioned, that's generally about the average sort of crowd at games. It's would become concerning, I guess, come finals time if you do get a home final like the last couple of years. But if you can get 20,000, I mean, that's a pretty fair crowd. There was only 24,000, I think, at Cowboys and Cronulla a couple of weeks ago. So that would be...
Yeah, it didn't sell out.
Yeah. That
it didn't sell out.
So,
but you've got to remember, Queensland team, Townsville, if that was Roosters, Sharks, you wouldn't be able to move in it. It's based on the location to the teams, right? Yeah. So, look, we had the home semi last year, where we played Cowboys. I went to that. It was a sellout. I think it squeezed about 15,000 in there. Somehow they got them all in, and extra corporate boxes and whatever, extra stand, unseated, and it was enough. But game when we open up, we'll have a clubhouse open, I think, around in a year.
Okay.
The place is extremely. Can you hear that vacuum cleaner going, mate? Is you picking that up?
Oh, slightly.
Right.
That's all right.
That's right. It'll go away in a minute. It's the cleaner in the building. So just in regards to what we're doing with the club, and so Sharks is probably now one of the most asset-rich clubs through the management of Dino Mezzatesta and obviously Stephen Mace. They've acquired a number of properties over the last 10, 15 years. And it's been beneficial. We bought Karela for a really good buy, and it's now tripled in price, just for an example. Yeah, so we own that, and we will be able to either sell or offload that at any time. We bought properties in Cronulla in the Main Street Mall. They've now leased that out to a gym for 20 years. We own our field. Yeah. We own it. It's valued at 40 million, just the oval, right? Wow. That part is 40 million because you can put high rise on it or whatever they do, asset rich. But we also own our clubhouse still, and we bought back some of the development that we'd sold off to complement the clubhouse. And that itself has been a value, according to the AGM, correct me if I'm wrong, but around another 38 million. And we own that. We don't owe any money on any of that. Right, so that's how powerful the club has become through this strategic management that these guys do. And look, our board, we are so blessed. We've got a good board there now. This board is full of very astute businessmen with huge amount of acumen in regards to revenue and the way they plan and execute some of the jobs and projects down there. Our Sharks Have a Heart Foundation is massive. It's worth millions now. It's doing big things throughout the Shire for troubled kids, families. The amount of give back that the Sharks do. And look, I know Parramatta's the same, Penrith is the same, probably every other NRL club, but I personally know those three through policing programs and charity programs, how much those three clubs, so, Sharks, Para and Penrith give back to their community. It's incredible, mate, and that's just don't ever forget that as a fan, if your fans are listening, that your contribution by being a fan flows back to your community through philanthropy and giving.
That's it. Well, I think I've been to Shark Park either once or twice, I think, over my journey, but I definitely know 2018, I think I was there, definitely. Yeah, I'll probably try and get there because we tend to, especially over the last couple of years, we tend to play you guys at CommBank and not at Shark Park. But I'll get there back again there one day.
Mate, if you happen to come down, if we do get a draw with a Para Sharks game, because I think the last one we did is an away country game. Where we get the bonus, you get the $500,000 to go off to a Coffs Harbour or somewhere like that, and then we played you guys over at your stadium. But, mate, you're welcome. I have 2 seats on the halfway line. They are yours for the Parramatta game if it's on there.
Nice.
All right, so
we'll have to wait till November.
Wait and see the draw. Yeah, but they're yours. They're yours. So those seats I use them for special guests, so they're great seats. Only thing is they're not undercover. So
let's hope it's a fine night then.
Yeah, generally, mate, I think this year we had one wet night. When I was on the board, we actually had torrential rain 2 nights and there was no one at the game except one person and his friend sitting in a wetsuit with goggles on down at the...
that was the famous game against South, I think.
That's right, against South. We brought them up to the Chairman's Lounge. They got the royal treatment for their efforts and we dried them off and let them watch the game from the Chairman's Lounge. Again, it was Lyle Gorman saw them.
Yeah,
and
Sharknado night, I think they were.
Yeah, Sharknado. That's right.
All right, well, we'll wrap things up with a set of 6, and there's sort of some fun questions. Favourite sport outside of rugby league?
Sorry, mate.
Favourite sport outside of rugby league?
Oh, mate, I love doing my triathlon still. I'm a Hall of Famer for triathlon, Ironman. I've done all that. I'm an immortal, so I could not say triathlon. It's a very close second to my motorsport. Yeah. So I've car raced most of my life. Currently own a Porsche Cup race car. Okay. And the last event I did was up at Mount Panorama, the Bathurst Challenge, 4-day weekend. Now doing lots of charity hot laps for special kids and anyone we can find that needs to find out what it's like to be in a race car. These things. So there's Porsche Cup cars or supercars in a Porsche body. Oh, nice. And a lot of fun. So that's probably my second favourite. And we've got the Bathurst 1000 coming up. We're usually up there every weekend. I'm going up again. That would be it. I do have other things I like doing. Obviously, triathlon encompasses swimming, riding and running. I love my riding. Cycling since COVID is second to none. So we ride locally here. We have a beautiful bike walk lane that rides out to Kurnell, out to the the Colonel Landing spot in National Park there. So we try and stay off the roads for the cranky motorists and apologise on behalf of the naughty cyclists, but 90% of us stay out of the way and do not ride in peak hour traffic. And just remember, when you do see a cyclist, though, that could be an Olympian, could be someone's mum or dad, could be someone's son or daughter, could be your friend. So if you get angry because you get up to that red light and they're in the way, just remember you can only go as fast as you are to your red lights and wait.
That's right.
No one's in anyone's way. Please, the roads have got enough problems around at the moment without everyone getting cranky with each other. It's hard enough. Just wave, thank each other and be kind. That's my catch cry, mate. Spread the love and be kind.
Yeah, no, that's
really important.
Yeah, no, definitely, 100%. Favourite holiday destination?
Oh, there's a couple. Hawaii.
Yeah.
Hawaii.
That often gets
closely followed by Canada in Vancouver and across to Banff. And probably then, my favourite holiday destination is Cronulla Beach. Because everything here, even in winter, we swim and it's sunny and you sit on the steps with the sou'wester blowing over the top of us. Don't get any of it. It's 20 degrees on the concrete steps. Beautiful. Yeah. People don't believe us. But mobile phones is we don't film any of it. You've seen it on some of my social media. But that's Cronulla. Look, I love coming home here, and I'm away a lot with media commitments and various other things that I do now. And I love coming home and being able just to walk to a restaurant or go to the beach and have a swim. And it's just fantastic environment here, mate. And did you see the little reel I put up of the lookout up above Cronulla the other day?
Yes.
Where else in Sydney do you get that? You can see all the way to the city, the airport, all across the bays, right down to Wollongong. Like, it's just phenomenal. Anyway, I'll put another one up just to wish everyone a morning.
That's it, yeah. Bit of a two-pronged question. First job and first car.
First job. A little bit of advice for your younger listeners. I retired very young, 57. I was very fortunate to retire from full-time employment at that age because of hard work, right? So my first job, I sold trees that I'd bought seedlings for out the front of my house for $2 each to try and save up to buy a radio that I was going to need for my Air Force cadets that I was in, where we're going on a bivouac camp. So that was probably my first job. My first real job, I was working in a factory because I'd messed up my Air Force career as a pilot.
Yeah.
Ended up working in a factory because my dad was so angry. He got me this job, had to leave school, and I was assembling stoves. It was my start and introduction to becoming an electrician, and I became an apprentice electrician at Australia's first nuclear and only nuclear reactor at Menai, where I worked underneath the nuclear reactor core, fitting pyrotechnics cables to it. And I'm still here to this day. Do not glow in the dark. Do not glow in the dark, and I'm healthy. So that's a little plug for a bit of nuclear. But it's been here a long time, and we live right near it. 1.6 kilometres from it. And look, it's a wonderful medicinal facility. I did my apprenticeship there. So that was my first real job, and I spent 8 years there, and fantastic time. First car, everyone has one of these. It's an E.H. Holden.
Oh, yes, okay.
E.H. Holden station wagon, complete with surfboards, going to Lake Conjola. That was my first car. And surfing Green Island at Lake Conjola at 17 with my P-plates on. Nice. And getting pulled over and hammered by the cops with my mates. And we had fun.
Yes, nice. Which three former or current Sharks players wouldn't you want to be stuck on a deserted island with?
Oh, mate, I lived with Sparkles for 6 months when I ended up in the dark days of being divorced, and he was in a bit of a world of hurt. So the two of us went into a one-bedroom unit that I happened to own. So I could live with him on an island. So I would normally say Sparkles because he's so much fun. I laugh too much when I'm around him. You couldn't live on an island with him, but then I lived in that unit. So that's a hard one because most of them are great guys. I wouldn't want to live with Andrew Fafita because the big guy is just such a big guy, and he'd eat all the food and I'd have nothing to eat. So that'd be
true.
Probably Al Wilson because he'd want to be playing golf all the time and cranky, and he'd make golf clubs out of sticks and whatever, and then get angry when he hits the ball sideways. And the third one, I wouldn't want to live with. Probably would have to be Terry Hughes, because he's such royalty of the Sharks, the first ever captain, first ever Rothmans medal winner for the Sharks in the inaugural 67 team. Love him to death, and he's still doing so much for the family of league. But I couldn't live on an island with him. He'd be too busy. I want to sleep, and Terry would be keeping me awake trying to do charity work for him.
Fair enough. Another sort of two-pronged question, but we'll start off with this one. You're hosting a dinner party. What is your specialty dish that you're going to put on for everybody?
Right. Well, mate, I love my cooking, right? Being a single man, living regularly on your own and traveling a lot, you learn to cook pretty quick, especially after being married for 22 years and having a beautiful wife that really looked after us as a family. Cooking, I was just the barbecue guru. That was my specialty. Yeah. So, but I've learned to cook. I love doing fish, with especially salmon, with a light bit of paprika and a little bit of salt. That's all. And 8 minutes aside, it just turns out the best with a nice, really nice, healthy salad full of all sorts of mix of beans and things in it. If I was doing it for guests or to come over, I would probably do the fish for everybody. And then I'd probably ring dial a menu and invite them in with some really good condiments. But I'd also probably do seafood, mate. Okay. I would do oysters, prawns and lobsters. All spread like that as the enter, and then the fish. And then what would we do for dessert? I'd probably get a really, really nice lump of that butter smooth vanilla ice cream mixed with custard and a little bit of whipped cream in it. That would probably just about do it.
Yes, well, which three people would you invite to that dinner party that you haven't met, either dead or alive, that you would love to sit down to those delicious meals?
Now, that's a hard one, mate.
Because you've met a lot of people.
Oh, man, yeah, I'm so grateful for the people that I've met in my life. I mean, I've had I had a wonderful time with a blind athlete, Nathan Johnston. You can Google that, Nathan Johnston, OAM. Nathan is an incredible athlete. Just the people that I have met. I just sort of throw him in there, mate, because I was his guide as a pilot for him as in triathlon. This guy's done Hawaiian Ironman and he's done fun runs. He's run with prime ministers and so on. He's incredible. When you get a chance, it'd probably be good to have him on the podcast at some stage because he's a mad Roosters fan.
Okay.
Anyway, and I hate him for that. Bloody Roosters.
Yes.
Anyway, they're a good side.
Bit of rivalry this week with the NRLW.
Yes, I know. That's why I brought it up. You're all over it. I thought I got away with that one. Look, like I said, I'm very grateful. I've met prime ministers and people in the media. I've met just wonderful people through philanthropy. Some of the people I've met through my charity work, phenomenal, mate. I'm blessed and very grateful to have met them all. People I haven't met, so I'd have over for dinner. Probably wouldn't mind. I'm always interested in George Clooney. He's a unique guy. He's done a lot of wonderful things outside of the movies. He just seems really interesting to engage. I listen to a lot of his conversations, and he just seems to be a pretty cool sort of guy.
He can bring the coffee.
He can bring the coffee. Yeah. And look at him. He's married Amal. She's like savvy, smart, incredible businesswoman that does so much in the way she's for human rights and so on. Like, he's a smart guy. You surround yourself with good people if you want to be successful yourself, and you learn from them, right? I've got my flaws, mate, and errors, and I've learned so much in the last 10 years of meeting people through charity work, that I've given myself the old uppercut or flick on the nose for previous behaviours, I guess. So, you need people like that in your life just to remind you, like Nathan Johnson and the blind athletes and people with disabilities and so on that need to get on with their lives. And the only way that they can do it is with someone else's assistance to open those opportunities, right? Because bottom line, they're just like us, and they've got bigger drives than us. I don't know, Tom Cruise. He's an interesting guy. He's my age. We're very similar in what we do in lifestyles. My law enforcement background was pretty wild. That will be another podcast for you to do one day. But, mate, I'm lucky I'm here for some of the risks that I had taken in that lifestyle. And when I watch a lot of the Tom Cruise stuff, I get flashbacks of things that I did in my life from a law enforcement undercover perspective, and just doing crazy stuff in the days when law enforcement, you could do it because we didn't have the same demographics of population and so on. So the risks were way lower in, high-speed pursuits and foot pursuits, arrests, disease, infection, all that, way lower. So Tom Cruise would be interested to see what drives him. He's also a pilot. He's helicopter and a plane pilot. I'm a helicopter pilot. Been flying for 25 years. So he'd be good to have. And probably you need a girl, a female, to keep us all on it. Personally, anyone, I've got an in there. I'd have Erin Molan for dinner any day of the week because she's just so good to talk with, and is just a quality human being. But probably the next one, Sarah Arbo. Okay, yeah. I know her from Channel 9, obviously. And then the next one, I reckon I'd love to meet Nicole Kidman. Never met her. Okay, I've gone past her and got a wave at an event. But that would be it. And Nicole Kidman, she'd probably walk all over myself, Cruise, and Clooney.
Yeah, I was just about to say, would that be a bit awkward having Tom and Nicole at the same dinner party?
Good point. I forgot that. That'd make for interesting.
I'm sure
that's right.
I'm sure they're over that these days, and
that's my bad.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they're responsible adults, and they could get over that and have a
they'll have to pick someone else.
Delicious salmon dinner.
Yeah. What is that? Remember the ads? It's you're having dinner with Tom Cruise. Remember that?
That's right. I think they were the old roast dinners, weren't they? Something like that.
Quick Tom Cruise story for you, and your listeners. So Tom loves Australia, still does, comes here a lot. He happens to love his flying, as you know, and our helicopter hangar where we do all the helicopter flights from, it's called Helicopter Transport and Training. A little plug for him. Mark Donohoe, the owner, does lots of charity, right? So out of the helicopter hangar, heap of charity work. We fly people down the harbour, including Maddie Sue's family. I mentioned the little girl with brain cancer's family, and we do a lot of that stuff. Right, that's basically my flying is that, and just retraining all the time. Okay. Is charity work now, and that 405 Victor 405 or Romeo 405 flight path from Homebush down to the Harbour Bridge and Opera House and back is the most picturesque in the world. So make sure you do it one day. Anyway, Tom Cruise, he used to own this pitch special biplane, and anyway, all of a sudden in our hangar, this pitch special turns up to be delivered there. And it gets parked up in the corner, and Mark doesn't tell anyone about it, the owner, and it sits there for a few months. And anyway, this black cars will turn up one day in midweek, and it's got the guys with the earpieces in. The building's clear. Everyone leaves. Everyone has to clear the building, right? And it's Tom Cruise and Patrick Swayze turn up at Bankstown in our hangar. And anyway, they were flying this. Patrick was very unwell at the time, and I was away. Otherwise, I would have been there, mate. I was away with my family. We were in the States. I missed all this.
Yeah, right?
Wow. Anyway, they're flying all over Sydney in this pit special every day because Patrick's on his last legs and Tom's he was his best friend, and they were just hanging out together doing their stuff. And anyway, the last day they're in, they fly out over Warragamba Dam and then turn around and come back inverted at 100 foot all the way across Sydney and land it upside down 100 foot till they got to the runway in Bankstown on 29 and rolled it over onto its wheels and landed. Within 10 minutes, the tower manager's down from the control tower banging on the door and going off his brain about these imbeciles that have been flying all over Sydney upside down at 100 foot, right? Reached every air law. Anyway, he's let in and he's going off at Mark, apparently, as the story goes. And those guys, it's just like the coffee cup in Top Gun, where he sprays the tower. Yeah. The coffee goes all over him. It's just the same. This guy is so angry and he's going off, and then he looks up and it's Tom and Patrick, and they're like naughty boys in the corner, and he's you two. And then the guy's just, oh my God, totally changes and gets autographs and photos with them. and
just don't do it again, okay?
Yeah, well, they got a very serious warning. Believe me, they got in a bit of trouble and a fine, I think.
Okay.
But he calmed down. He calmed down and understanding what was going on with Patrick on his last legs as well, I guess. And but what a story, know. And yeah, it's a good Tom Cruise one. Upside
down. You weren't there to see it.
Yeah, I missed it. But Bringelly, imagine the people in Bringelly with this plane flying upside down with these two idiots yahooing.
What's
Anyway,
going on? What's going on? I
what
live
is
out of
what is
Jamison
doing up
Town. I
there?
don't remember
Yeah.
anything like that. But no, that's okay. But yeah, you're right. They see that and go, "What's going on?" Now, on your social media stories, you do put a lot of music, songs, and artists up there. So this one might be a
Yeah.
little bit hard for you. But who's your favourite musician or band to listen to?
I have a couple. If you have me, you don't mind me having
No,
more than
no,
one.
no, not at all.
Righto. So my number one song. Obviously, when I was married, there was a song that I played at the wedding. That's a past life now. That was my favourite song at that time, and I'm not going to bring it up. But my number one lifelong song is In Excess, Beautiful Girl,
Oh
because
yes.
I've been very fortunate with most of the women in my life, and there hasn't been a lot, but my partners, my wife. Partners afterwards, friends, the girls have all been amazing women, and they're beautiful in their own way, and that song is reminiscent of that. So that's probably my number one favourite song. I play it a lot. You probably hear it a lot when I do those there in the five grabs and the lead-ins and stuff, and we throw Molan's head on there and give her a beautiful girl song. We have another one probably. There's so many, mate. November Rain is a pretty cool song.
Yeah.
If you're ever just having a beer, I've got a record player here. You can probably swing it around there. There's a little record player over there.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Yep, there it is. I've gone back to vinyl. I love my vinyl. So a bit of Jeff Buckley, and obviously Neil Diamond. Great for when you're having guests over, or if you're trying a dinner party like we talked about before. Throw the old Neil Diamond on. Everyone has a song. And then my number one song of all time, since I was very young, Billy Joel, Piano Man.
Okay. Yeah.
Sums up life beautifully. Guys in bars, broken hearts, people looking for romance. That was the era of the 70s where you went to find your love was in a bar, or you ended up in a bar as a lost soul. So beautiful song.
I'm still waiting for Billy to do a sequel to We Didn't Start the Fire. I think he needs to update and do a number 2, I think.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, it's a good point. Flicking the DM on social media.
Yeah, there's been plenty of events that have happened since then, but I'm waiting for that one. But that's for sure. And I remember growing up as a kid, Neil Diamond, he came out for a concert tour to Sydney, and I remember the TV ads promoting the concert, and it was like he's got 2 shows only. And then a week later, it was 3 shows only, 4 shows, 5 shows, 6 shows. It just went on and on and on.
Everybody came out. I went to the entertainment centre and watched him. We were right next to the stage. It was fantastic.
It was probably at those run of shows, and certainly one of his songs, "Sweet Caroline," is certainly used a lot at rugby league grounds these days, and sporting events as well. That's a great song. Well, Glenn Gorick, thank you very much for joining me today on the Parrot Cave podcast. We could have spoke. We might have to do a number 2, I think, because we've spoken for a long time. I really appreciate your time, and if Parramatta play at Parramatta next year, we'll catch up. If we play at the Sharks home ground, we'll catch up as well. But we'll definitely catch up, hopefully next year at the Mark Hughes Walk as well. So thank you very much for joining me today on the podcast.
Mate, it's been an absolute honour, and I'm very grateful for you giving me this opportunity to come on your show, your great show, and I look forward to seeing you at Shark Park. And please, by all means, come to the Mark Hughes Foundation launch when it's on at the SCG and join us in the walk anytime you want, mate.
No worries. Thank you.
Hello, Paracave podcast listeners. My name is Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty and long-term sponsor of the Paracave podcast. If you're looking to sell your property or buy, or just curious to know what your property is worth in today's market, give me a call today on 0421 588 445.
Welcome back to the Paracave podcast and this episode with Mr. Glenn Gorick. I really hope you enjoyed both parts of this episode. Don't forget that it is in the back catalogue, so if you did miss part 1, you can go back and have a listen to it as well. I really appreciate Glenn for coming onto the podcast and having a chat. It was really interesting, and look, may even get him on again next season as well. Maybe when Parramatta play Cronulla, we might do a bit of a fan preview of that game that will happen next season. When that will be, who knows yet. That will be decided, or the draw will come out very, very shortly. I think it's next week anyway. But thank you very much for listening to both of these episodes. I hope you're enjoying the split up format of the two episodes. Just makes it a little bit easier to listen to, I think, if they are, especially if they are a long episode. Cut them in half, and then a little bit easier to listen to. So thank you very much for that. If you enjoyed it, please give it a 5-star rating and review, and share it with your family and friends. I'd really, really appreciate that one. Thank you to all the Instagram followers. I really appreciate that. Appreciate the support there that I get there. And to all the listeners as well, thank you very much for the support, for listening to the Para Cave podcast. I really enjoy doing what I do for you guys, the fans and the listeners. So thank you very much. On to next week, there will be an interview with Mr. Chris Johns, former Brisbane Broncos player, and also played for the St George Dragons as well when they were just the Dragons. So that one will be coming out next week. And any other breaking news that happens during now and next week's interview as well. So thank you very much. And once again, the Para Cave podcast, by the fan, for the fans. Go Para! The Para Cave podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leisure Club, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Clothing, and the official media partner of the Para Cave podcast, the Parramatta Times.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Para Cave podcast. See you next